name is Nekima Levy Armstrong. I'm a civil rights attorney, activist, and executive director of the Wayfinder Foundation. In my work, I have an opportunity to connect with many families who have lost loved ones to police violence, as well as community members who continue to feel the ongoing impacts of losing someone that they love under often senseless circumstances. I have been with the Wayfinder Foundation since 2018. I became the executive director in 2019. I love the work of our organization so much because we work hand in hand with Black and brown women on the front lines who are fighting for social change and racial justice in their communities. As a matter of fact, we have had fellows who have lost loved ones due to police violence, and they talk about the impacts of those encounters and the loss of their loved one as a result of a tragic incident with police or some other member of law enforcement. The Autopsy Initiative is very unique because it acts as a backstop to the traditional ways in which autopsies are conducted within various jurisdictions. If we focus on the case in which George Floyd was killed, for example, we saw that the medical examiner in that case issued a preliminary autopsy findings that were more in alignment with the police narrative of the incident. And so during the trial of Derek Chauvin, that medical examiner's previous supervisor and mentor had to testify to clean up some of the evidence and information that came forward. Now, think about the implications of that. The killing of George Floyd really became a worldwide impact in which, folks from all walks of life showed up on the front lines, standing for justice. Media outlets covered the issue. And even in that situation, one of the most talked about issues of police violence, we still saw evidence in which the system sought to reinforce the status quo. So imagine families whose loved ones are unknown in terms of name, in terms of getting media coverage, how often a medical examiner's report can make a difference in terms of whether someone is able to receive justice. And in many of these instances, there's not a lot of public eyes on the matter. And then the families often don't have additional support. They have to rely upon that one report from the medical examiner. And I think with your initiative, you are helping to level the playing field for families to be able to seek justice and to find out exactly what happened to their loved ones. It gives attorneys additional evidence and information in terms of building their case. If it's a civil suit, for example, and they have decided to pursue action on behalf of loved ones of those who've been victimized by police or law enforcement, they now can take that additional autopsy, the report from the pathologist, and use that as evidence to determine the cause of death in a given situation. And again, we saw this play out so well during the Derek Chauvin trial, who is the officer who killed George Floyd. One of the women who we are able to work with through our organization, Helen Jones, a Black mother whose son was killed in the custody of the sheriff's department in Los Angeles, had to learn how to read autopsies on her own. And she talks about the fact that there are so many families in the same predicament who don't have those additional resources to be able to hire an independent pathologist to review what happened to their loved one. And so having an expert who is qualified, who is independent, be able to provide such a critical examination can mean the difference between a family winning their case or having the murder of a loved one potentially being swept under the rug. When family members are able to speak directly with pathologists, it eliminates a lot of the barriers that currently exist when a family is having to rely solely on the word of a medical examiner in a given county. Medical examiners in various counties are a part of a system. And too often there is a focus, an inherent focus on protecting that system, even if it means denying families justice and denying them the truth of what happened to their loved one. So being able to sit face to face with the pathologist, to hear their independent perspective of what happened, to also ask them questions, makes the process so much less intimidating. I think that 9 times out of 10, families who've lost loved ones to victims of police violence don't get a secondary autopsy. They are forced to rely upon the word of the medical examiner in their particular jurisdiction, which has a lot of cons. You know, it may have some pros if that medical examiner is being honest in terms of their assessment, but there are a lot of cons involved in that because of the focus on protecting the status quo and maintaining the current system that's in place. Finances are also a barrier to many families who are often low income, who have to figure out how to pay for a funeral, how to take care of the children of someone who has lost loved ones to police violence, and they can't necessarily afford to pay an independent pathologist to bring forward autopsy results. And so this service that you all provide is so critical to helping families have the tools and the resources that they need to fight against a system, again, that too often focuses on maintaining the status quo and failing to deliver justice time and time again for those who have lost loved ones to police violence. It's remarkable that in less than a year, the Autopsy Initiative has been able to assist over 40 families with getting independent autopsies for their loved ones. And so I'm personally grateful as a civil rights attorney and an activist that you all have taken this important step in providing the service and the resources for families in need. You're bridging a lot of gaps that currently exist in this system. And I know that families are blessed to have this opportunity to partner with you all in seeking justice on behalf of the loved ones that they lost to police violence. I would without a doubt recommend the Autopsy Initiative to families who have lost loved ones to police violence, as well as to the attorneys who represent those families. This is such an important tool in the pursuit of justice, and I am so thankful that families now have access to this additional resource that you all provide.